Welcome to Let's Go Indigo. I'm your host, Isaac Holtz, and on a good day, Indigo Ike. Today I want to talk about protest, and hopefully we can discuss an integrative developmental approach to protesting. And we'll start looking at the LA protests through the lens of a few online news reporters and discuss where their altitude is and bring in a notion about protests that we see today that are somewhat similar to the Vietnam protest in their makeup of a developmental aspect. And then we want to raise the question of what does a integral teal holistic protest look like, or what might it look like? So I want to start with this weekly news show called New World Next Week. The two reporters are James Corbett, who has the Corbett Report, and James Evan Pilato, who has Media Monarchy. And they do this show together.
Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I am James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. I know my rights, and I have a right to protest. We have that story plus building a better Bilderberger, but first, nearly 8,000 killed in Syria within 6 months.
Okay, so that's just their little intro. And they do this weekly show, and they will go through some of the latest topics and discuss it, somewhat like I'm hoping to do here. In a different way, I hope to discuss the content creators themselves more than just the news. And I would loosely put these two at a advanced orange-green developmental lens. So let's take a look at the developmental lens model. You've seen this if you've been to my channel. I have a video that goes deep, at least a little bit deep into each of these color stages that we'll talk about, and I'll put that description in the link below. And like I mentioned briefly, I would put James Corbett, definitely a very orange fella. He's very rational. He puts evidence in all his videos. He links all the news articles, and I think he cares from a green altitude. He's a little snarky. He definitely has very little patience for the late amber orange world. So there's a big first tier power struggle. And all these words, again, you would, if you're new to it, watch the video and we can catch you up to speed. And I'll try to add some descriptions as we go. And the other fella, I would put it at a very nice green level. He's he's a little more smoother around the edges. He's from Portland, which is has a very green vibe to it. But just in a ballpark, I would put these guys at a late orange, deep, good green. But they're not discussing developmental stages at teal. I would love to have that discussion with them. Anyone at green really is hopefully capable, especially if they're exit green, looking at development and talking in a teal way or discussing what teal might be. Okay, so we're going to look at the protests. I'll skip ahead in the video. We'll see what they had to say.
As we go from one war zone to another, mass arrests as defiant immigration protesters ignore lockdown orders in Los Angeles. Just kind of grabbing a general overview story from the Daily Mail, because of course I got to go to get British coverage of an American story. That's obviously one that is developing rather rapidly. The Los Angeles Police Department, and again, James, as we've talked about, to trick people into the position of going, yeah, I support the guys who ran crack with the CIA through the city. They're the good guys now. The Los Angeles Police Department announced it is conducting mass arrests as defiant immigration rioters defied curfew Tuesday night. That is last night to me here in the States. Mayor Karen, indeed, her name is Karen Bass declared earlier in the day that downtown Los Angeles would be under a curfew through 8 p.m. through 6 a.m. today, Wednesday, to stop vandalism, to stop the looting after more than 20 businesses were vandalized the night before. But protesters remained on the scene, with one man in his early 20s telling Daily Mail, "I know my rights and am willing to be arrested unjustly. I have a right to be here and protest." James, I think a lot of people might say that until the kettling and the boxing in all happens. And man, they're still doing the same moves they've done at protests for, almost the last 20 years.
So there's a few things we want to address here before we get to the overall scheme of integral protests. But what he's discussing here in the LA, he mentions a few things. So let's go back to the developmental stage. I want to say he's talking about the Amber military police, in a way, this kind of traditional group-centered show of force to keep red impulsive behavior contained. So the boxing in, and this dynamic is something to definitely Integral Lens is helpful for. The police are always going to be amber. They're going to have their own set of rules. And if you break their rules, they're going to use force. And they're going to feel justified and all these things. The red behavior, when people start looting or breaking things or doing their own individual force, or as a group, as a mob, as a riot, there is a distinction that needs to be made when it comes to protest. Amber is sometimes needed when there's just a lot of red behavior. Amber is the civilizing force of a lot of individuals in red. Now, this topic of immigration, huge thing to break down itself. We have all these amber rules for the country about what is legal and illegal immigration. And then we also have a kind of moral dilemma about, are those laws just? Are they necessary? Are they, even from an orange point of view, are they efficient? Do they make sense? And then from the green point of view, there's these questions of, is it moral? Orange and green, especially green, will take a look at amber, the amber rules, and if they feel they are not aligned with their values, which often it can be, they will protest or they will just break them. And there's a difference between breaking a rule, an amber rule, from below amber and from above amber. And those who organize the protest are probably coming from an orange or a green, maybe even a teal place. And they say these laws, these amber laws, are unjust, and we will protest them. And what happens is a protest that may be started or largely made up of, let's just say, green individuals. Those green individuals may use their own red, and they may have good reason to act in a red, egocentric power way. But a lot of times what happens is genuinely just red people show up to protest, and they're the ones who get all the attention, who break the rules, who say fuck you, who say I do it what I want to do, this is my body, or this is my, and it's not coming from a place of beyond conventional reasoning. So there's a post-conventional protest, and then there's a pre-conventional protest. And this is what's not seen most of the time.
I've said this a million times on my morning show, James, if never here in New World Next Week. Back when we were doing a little bit of protesting in Portland, we did the Obama surge protest. Remember when Obama was going to add thousands of troops to Afghanistan because it was the right war? That was a protest I was involved with in Portland. And even the situation with the marches against Monsanto. You'll find yourself at a certain point where all these people who weren't in your group get out in front of your parade and say, let's be violent, let's go that way, the permit, blah, 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 blah. Somehow, it always shows up.
Okay. So he might be alluding to a little bit of what I would call a green concern that there's state actors that disrupt protests, and that's been shown. But what I want to focus on is that these people who get out in front, let's just for the sake of the discussion, say that they're just there and they're red. They're going to be violent. They're going to break the rules, and they're not going to help the post-conventional, the what he's describing, the dislike for Obama's policy, dislike for Monsanto's corporate policy, these kind of green critiques on orange or amber. When red gets mixed in, it changes and it dilutes, but they will join in with the green protesters. And it's tough to separate out the two and to have media attention focus on the moral or rational critique of policy or companies or countries. And from below, they will draw the attention.
Police deployed officers on horseback, always a really, really good look, and used crowd control projectiles to break up groups of hundreds demonstrating against President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. Honestly, James, to look at a lot of the footage, and I've had the YouTube live streams going while I'm doing show prep for my own morning shows, it's not that many people really at all. So, of course, the news needs something exciting to show, so they'll follow and chase anything around, even if it's not really that much.
So here he speaks to that eventually, and there's a lot going on. There's so much going on from a developmental lens that you can tease this apart. There's just the different factions of some spectrum of amber. The president's not allowed to come in and break the rules of the state, so the state and the nation are kind of fighting there in terms of whose authority it is to deal with the situation. There is just a huge amount of chances to talk about immigration from a developmental point of view, from what laws we should have or follow, and when they should be allowed to be broken. Is there a rational system we can create? Is there a humanitarian system we can create? And or is there just, if you're not a U.S. person, an amber, black and white, if you're not us, then get out of our country, amber point of view. So there's a lot of both finding your own stance about these issues, and then also just understanding the other actors in the play, and understanding where they come from developmentally. And then if you find yourself from a green point of view getting really upset at the amber, either policymakers or even fellow citizens, hopefully you can have a little bit more compassion, just from a level of going, okay, this is where they're at developmentally. This might be where I'm at, and this is they're not. If you go a little bit more into a developmental aspect, you can go, these people at red or at amber, they're not going to change overnight. It doesn't mean we don't protest. It doesn't mean we don't fight for new policy, but we can have a little more understanding, hopefully some compassion, and then maybe a more effective protest or more effective policy change can come from a developmental aspect. There's a lot going on, but I just wanted to get the conversation going. So hit me up in the comment section, hit the like button, subscribe, come back. Let's find out what else we should discuss to get this little teased out. But before we go, I just want to draw attention to some of these Vietnam. I just did a Vietnam protest search. And even here, you can see a lot of interesting aspects that developmental studies can talk about. This image has Vietnam for the Vietnamese, let's get out. So that's even just an amber point of view. It's not our country. What are we doing there? Then we have just like a war is bad, war is wrong from a kind of a green point of view. End the war now, bring the troops home. A little bit of both. We won't fight in another rich man's war. Here's kind of a red, perhaps like healthy red. We're not going to fight for Orange's battle. Get the hell out of Vietnam. There's red showing up. Here's the putting the flowers into the guns, a very green, sensitive approach to amber. Again, hell no, don't go. You see a little bit of that red, and that might be a green perspective, including a kind of forceful, healthy red. Here's respect the 1954 Geneva Accords. So a very orange. This doesn't make sense. We're not following what the amber rules are put up to be. A protest sign about how many have died, trying to, I would say, a very green point of view of the casualty of war. Okay. Here's the UAW. Here's an amber group protesting, saying, "Stop the war in Indonesia now." So a lot of interesting things can be seen from the developmental lens. I hope we can tease some of this apart over time. And I wish you all the best on your developmental journey.